What's Android, doesn't it?
It's for Android.
Yeah.
What it is on your desktop computer or on your Android device, you upload the music to the thing. That's what's so stupid about there being no Linux app.
Yeah, I mean, I get the impression it's supposed to actually integrate things, so it's not really a phone thing, it's more like a phone plus desktop thing in so-called cloud. I personally call it fog computing to just kind of say it's basically not in your control. But the strange thing about it, I don't really think I'm interested in this anyway. I don't think they'll mention the DRM term because it means nothing to people. I saw the video that's introducing the service, but the impression I got, this is just one more store that probably controls you totally and basically say, well, your music expired, or, your music, if you want to get it to work on a different device, it has to have this certain support and approval from Google. So you couldn't just take your song and do whatever you want with it. So this is one service that's, well, it's kind of, it's Google, it's nice, or I'm not sure it's nice, but it's just one of those things that don't appeal to me personally. And maybe they figured as well, if they use DRM in this service, if they actually use some sort of restrictions, management, as they call it, restriction management on the distribution of files, copying of files, and things like that, how would they implement it too easily in Linux? I mean, one of the things that Linux users would probably do is give you some root access and allow you to copy the files and pass them around. And many of them won't be interested in this in the first place because they just basically know this is DRM.
There's two music services. There's buying music, and then there's this cloud music thing. This cloud music thing is you upload the files to it, so they were yours in the first place.
Yeah, it's a bit similar to what Ubuntu is doing, or Canonical is doing in Ubuntu 1, which integrates to some extent with, I think it's Amazon's shop, and you can sort of buy music and then you put it on the so-called cloud, and you can access your music.
It's very much a competitor to that.
Yeah, so it is pretty much the same. I think that what they try and do is offer you a service. You say, put all your files here, and we will make recommendations, and we will make it easier for you to buy your music from now on from Google, or via Google, and not pay the labels or whatever. I don't really think Apple has to pay so much of the labels either, and they had some lawsuits about that. But this is more like the big music labels, or, well, in this case it's the copyright cartel, so to speak.
Actually, that's the exact opposite problem in this one, and that may be one of the reasons that Google, like you're pointing out, cut out Linux, because Google launched this thing without any permission from any copyright holder anywhere. Their argument was along the same lines as Amazon's of, it's the music they own. They don't need a license from you to use what they already own.
Right. I mean, this is a world kind of less familiar to me in terms of the licensing and copyrights. All I know, though, is that Google is increasingly approaching this conflict between what it's doing with books, for example, a situation in which it's giving you previews and giving you access to things like books and saying we will organize this information. And then there is this profitable market where they basically offer you things perhaps with DRM and restrictions from Google. You have to go via Google to listen to your songs. And that's kind of against abundance as opposed to the situation where they do try to encourage people to share, to distribute, to put as much stuff as possible online available to people. So I'm not sure. I think they start to tend to lean a bit more towards the scarcity part of things, where basically they can make copies and charge you to copy things that already exist to make some money. In this case, that's more of a almost a philosophical or economical type of discussion, I guess, about whether they really have to do that. Because one of the ways they could actually support musicians would be to encourage people to make payments after listening to music they like, instead of actually having to pay and to purchase things. Yeah, I suppose it's one of those topics that we occasionally had before, how to actually pay.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware that Google or Amazon had actually launched their cloud music players yet. I thought that from what I saw, Amazon announced it, and they said, well, we don't need to pay for extra licenses. we're going to go ahead without that, and the RIAA and MPAA said, no, you can't do that. And then Google came along just not long after that and announced, the very same as Amazon, that we're going to go and do it as well, and we don't need licenses. But I wasn't aware that either of them had actually launched.
Google's is in beta. I can't vouch for Amazon's at this point, but I think it's still pending. I don't think it's actually fully live yet.
No way! A Google product in beta? Say it's not so. Say it's not so.
I know. But it's like, and I agree with both of them on the they don't need an extra license, because it's absurd that they think they need to get a license for. Say I own, you know what? We'll use our favorite We'll use our favorite infringement song. Say I have a CD with "Happy Birthday" on it, and I rip that off to an MP3 and I upload that to my Amazon or cloud music thing, and I want to play that on all my devices through my Google or Amazon account. According to the copyright holders, Amazon and Google should have to get a license to restream Happy Birthday because I uploaded Happy Birthday. I didn't infringe, but they can't let me stream it to myself using their server because they don't own a license to it. And that's absurd.
There was another thing on, I think it was TechDirt, where the RIAA apparently announced that, or one of their people announced that playing the song back from a stream is a public performance, even if there's only one person listening.
That's the argument.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. What it seems to me is the RIAA what they would ideally want is a pay per instance model and per person. So if you're sitting with a group of 5 people in your house and you listen to an album with 10 songs, ideally they would want a system to somehow detect how many people are in the room and then say, right, that's per track, and if you want to play the same track again, that's you charged again, you know?
Well, I don't know how it works for y'all are, but they have a special license specifically for that niche thing here in the U.S. Like, if you're a restaurant and you want to play the radio over the speakers in your restaurant, the law here, I can't vouch for the U.K., but the law in the U.S. says if there's more than 2 people in the restaurant, you have to get a rebroadcast license.
Well, there was some story about I think it's the PRS, which is the Public Recording Society or something. They were demanding fees for ridiculous things that made the press. One was a horse's stable, where the horse was comforted by classical music getting piped in. And they said, well, the horse is an audience member, therefore it's a public performance, therefore you need to pay so that the horse can listen to music. I mean, come on, it's a horse, you know?
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a horse, of course, exactly.
Yeah, that goes back to around 2008, I believe.
Yeah, it was a few years ago.
Debate about, yeah. I mean, I suppose all the bacteria inside your body is listening to the music as well. I suppose it doesn't sense audio so well. Maybe you should, if you entertain them as well, I suppose.
Yeah, the other one was they were going round, like, offices that weren't actually open to the public. They were like offices that did the administration for charities and things like that, and they were saying, oh, you've got the radio on, you're due us money.
Yes. That's that rebroadcast license, because there were more than 2 people in the office. It's a live performance, therefore you must have your rebroadcast license to play the radio over the intercom.
Yeah, well, one of the things they started to do in Europe, in some places, especially in Central Europe, as far as I can tell, was to play Creative Commons music in the nightclubs, which is interesting. So it means that you go there and you listen to music you don't necessarily know, you don't necessarily hear on television, but if it's good music, if you go to like a place that plays house music or plays something like trance, I guess, you probably won't be able to tell much of a difference anyway. Well, they actually can reduce the price of the, for people to enter the club if they do that, if they do these types of things.
Oh, yeah, did you hear? They're not cheap by any means.
Did you hear about, I think it's Bryn in the Netherlands? I'm sure it was Bryn. They basically went round claiming copyright on stuff that they had never even heard of, that they were not representing, but they were saying, oh, well, we represent that, you want to play it, therefore pay us for a license.
Yeah, this is why they call them the Mafia with two A's at the end, which stands for, it's a nice acronym, because they all share the same interests, so they kind of help each other in some ways. In this case,